your Unit 4 essay, to what degree and in what ways the sectional tension from 1820 to 1850 increased through economic policy, westward expansion, and political compromise. Here is the scoring matrix, the core matrix which you've had since the first week of school. And along with it is a whole bunch of information to help you with your essays, which we started with at the beginning of the year, and it seems many of you have forgotten. So let's review it again. And you found when I emailed you your essays, you should have found a copy of this with it, with your grades in it. So let's begin. First off, slideshow from start. Let's go over the PowerPoint real quick here. For free response essays, they are the heart of the AP exam. They measure your ability to reason along with your content. To succeed, you need 3 steps. 3 steps. Number 1, you got to understand the prompt. You got to rip apart that question. Number 2, organize your information. You should have an outline somewhere on scrap paper before you even write one word on your essay paper. And then, finally, write a clear and accurate response. Do you remember what the 3 steps in succeeding with an AP free response essay are? I hope so. So, some prompts on the AP exam are very open. Here's an example. The government under the Articles has been considered a failure. Describe 3 actions of the Confederation government and explain how these actions may or may not be considered failures. Okay, so let's pull this apart. These type of prompts require you to define the terms, specify the time period, and understand the task. So what you want to look here is failure, describe 3 actions, explain, may or may not. To address the prompt, the following questions must be answered. First off, what time period? And you know, it says the Articles of Confederation, that's 1781 to 89. Number 2, what were 3 actions of the Confederation Congress that you are going to discuss? So there's where your content is. You got to know the 3. And last but not least, how are you defining failure or success? Obviously, one of the successes might be they won the Revolutionary War. Obviously, one of the failures would be that the government would collapse and go to the Constitution. Or maybe you see that as a success. Now, some provide clear time periods. Yours did from 1820 to 1850. Those numbers mean something. I look at this essay, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the time between after the World War I and then right before the Great Depression. Here we got the end of World War II and the beginning of Korea, beginning of the Cold War. So how did the African American civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s address the failures of Reconstruction? Again, 50s and 60s, we got an idea. You're going to have to know the time period of Reconstruction, 65 to 77. You got to compare and contrast. So thus you need to deal only with foreign policy decisions, since it said foreign policy. Foreign policy. Don't do domestic. Answer the question given, the number 1 problem AP students have. Next, you need to pick decisions that are both different and similar between the earlier and later time periods. That way you can have an essay that compares and contrasts. The prompt about the civil rights and Reconstruction, where you got to compare 2 time periods. You got to know when Reconstruction was. And know several very specific results of the later civil rights movement that directly address the failures of Reconstruction. And this, of course, we'll be going over. So when you see these prompts, here's some key words. When you see analyze, it means tell how or why. Your essay had the words degree, and this through all of you. It requires you to limit your evidence and define certain terms and analyze the degree of impact. The degree of impact. Thus, which had the greater or the least impact? Economic policy, westward expansion, or political compromise in creating sectional tension. None of you addressed that. So, in a curve, it didn't hurt any of you. It should have crushed your grade. So what do I got to pull apart here? First off, the degree. I'm going to have to tell the degree sectional tension was increased. And I got to use SF5 that comes between those two dates, that 30-year policy. Now I'm looking, I see Compromise of 1820, Missouri Compromise, and I see the Compromise of 1850. That's pretty straightforward there. Tips. Make sure you understand exactly what your task is, what you got to prove in the essay. Don't wander. You don't have time. Specific, specific, specific. Now, do not be specific if you don't know the answer. Anything that is absolutely wrong will crush your grade and your essay right there. Use proper nouns. Words that need to be capitalized. Don't be all general. Be very specific. Don't use generalities like many reforms, lots of reformers, many things change, major changes. Whenever you see yourself do that, stop. And then try to say why it was major changes, why there were many reforms, how there were a lot of reformers. You know what I mean? That way you're getting much more specific. Really, you got to have this thing written before you write it. It has to be written in your mind with a sketch of an outline. It's not a long process. You don't have a lot of time. I recommend 10 minutes. If you got 35 minutes, that's a lot of your time. But a wandering essay is a failing essay. So decide the 2 or 3 things you need to discuss from your prompt. Organize and check through them to see that you balance the discussion. Now remember, English tells you one thing, and I understand. But with you, which paragraph should go first? God bless the one you got the most to write about. You want to hit them hard with the good stuff first. You might not have enough time at the end, and thus you make your weakest at the last. Now, outlines. There's many different outlines depending on what your essay looks like. With yours, I might have had 3 columns. Who knows? 3 columns, 1 for westward expansion, political compromise, and economic policy. Don't be timid. I hate to pick on a student, but this is you, Mr. Teachy. Mr. Teachy, stop writing, in my opinion. Stop writing, I think. These only weaken your arguments. You don't want your lawyer in court saying, I think my client's innocent. So, be definite. Your thesis should answer the prompt with your opinion. These are always an opinion you got to prove. Having brainstormed, then organize specific facts. Start each paragraph with a clear topic sentence, and we'll be going over these in a second. And refer to specific facts you're thinking. Stick to structure. Refer to your outline as you write. After writing your thesis paragraph, go back and reread the prompt. The prompt is everything. Have you answered the prompt on your thesis? Because the number one problem AP students have is they don't answer the right question. What 3 or 4 points must you make to support your thesis? Write these down. As you write, look back to the prompt and your thesis. Are you sticking to the topic? Okay, plan the time so that you can read your essay before you finish. That's a luxury, I'm going to have to tell you. You're going to have to be good to do this. Frankly, you're probably going to be writing until the time is up. If you're not, you probably didn't know the material well enough. Don't ignore a conclusion paragraph. Sometimes it can make up for weaknesses earlier in the essay. Matter of fact, you might want to skim the essay if you got a little time. See where your weaknesses are and then tap it there. Your big idea, your contrasting, all can be reinforced here. When a grader's on the fence, did you address it enough? Didn't you? Boom! Conclusion finishes it off for you. Okay, so what did we just go over? Read the prompt. Know what you're supposed to answer. And then write a thesis that addresses the prompt. The number one problem, the number one problem, the number one problem. Are you hearing me? Proper nouns only, no generalizations. Have a good outline before you rock and roll with your essay. Okay? So, writing is thinking on paper. It doesn't matter how well you say nothing, it's still nothing. You're writing to impress a reader. They have about 2 to 3 minutes to grade your essay. You got to convince them in the first 15 seconds that you're sharp and that you possibly are going to get a good grade on this. God bless, you got to own that question. Now, in previous years, what did these essays emphasize? Analyzing or assessing the degree to which a statement is true. So your essay, did you say that westward expansion was by far the greatest cause in creating sectional tension? I know none of you did. Analyzing or assessing the impact. Look at this. I put those two together. So you had to have the degree of impact that you had to analyze. Relative importance. It's kind of what we did here, didn't we? Except it was the relative impact. The extent. Have you noticed these are all very similar? Which a historical stereotype is true for a given period. So your reasons, compare and contrast, very, very popular. All right. So here's what we're going to start with until the very end of this course. We're going to use the course structure. Let's go over it again. First off, scoring guide. I showed you it earlier. In each individual blank, let's see if I have that. Each individual blank, I will put either a 0, 1, 2, or 3. 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 At this point, I expect none of you to get any 3s. I'm not worried about getting any 3s at this point. I need you to get 2s. If on your read-write you don't get all 2s, you're really behind. This is where you got to get at least all 2s. Okay, so you looked at core grading matrix. What am I looking for? The topic sentence does 3 things. By the way, none of you did this. None of you directly answered the question because none of you answered the degree to which the impact increased sectional tension. So y'all got a 1 on that if you did it in the first place. Did you take a position? Did you tell me the degree? And did you tell me how much of an impact? And introduces the category. All of you got a 1 because you at least did that. You said either economic policy, westward expansion, or political compromise. Evidence. Did you have at least 2 big things, 2 big pieces of evidence that support your position, that show, westward expansion? Did you have the Mexican-American War creating sexual tension with Wilmot Proviso and the Free Soil Party? You will see where I'm going here. Interpretive commentary. This is where you're really going to show them. All the rest is nice. But this is where they know whether you're an intelligent life form or not. Can you tell how or why the Mexican-American War and Wilmot Proviso show the degree of sexual tension created through westward expansion? Can you? And the clincher sentence. A lot of you lost easy points addressing the topic sentence, answering the question. Maybe this is where you go over the degree. Maybe you didn't address the degree at all in the paragraph, and here's where you kick it. Conclusion, at this point, I don't want anything grand. Restates the thesis in different words, throws in the big idea. All right, first off, hit them with a brick. Begin with a well-developed thesis. Remember, it should do 3 things. Answer the question. None of you did the degree. Takes a position. None of you said that sexual tension was more influenced by westward expansion than political compromise. And establishes organizational categories. The topics. Well, usually 80% of the time, they give you the topics. Sometimes they don't. If you go with economic, political, and social, you might get a 3, but you'll never get a 4 or a 5. Begin each paragraph with a topic sentence. That first thing, and I'm going to grade you on that. There it is, first thing. Boom, look at the points there. You got as much points from the topic sentence as you do from all your interpretive commentary. Get it right. Use names, dates, places, and events. Be specific. Don't merely list or describe the information. Don't regurgitate. Just go and throw out a whole bunch of information. Every sentence should be proven your thesis. I'm telling you, when I write an essay, every sentence I write, I'm looking at the thesis statement. Every sentence, because that's its purpose, to prove the thesis statement. Topic sentences are small thesis statements, so you can do that instead. Explain how and why. Don't vomit up a bunch of information. If you're telling me, the Mexican-American War and Wilmot Proviso caused sectional tension. Why? All right. Next, kill the damn dog. Keep the essay focused answering the question. What's he talking about? Kill the damn dog. Combine thoughts into clear, concise, sophisticated sentences. Make the important factual information the subject of your sentence. So, like if I'm talking about Wilmot Proviso, you don't go off saying, David Wilmot, representative from Pennsylvania, who really liked his wife. No! What's important to the question? So, a complete historical thought is a cause-effect relationship. Wilmot Proviso was the cause. The effect would be. So let me show you an example. Here is somebody who didn't kill the damn dog. See Spot run. Spot runs past Dick. The grass is wet. See Spot run past Jane. Dick has a stick. The sun is shining. Hear baby cry. Spot runs into the road. Spot gets hit by a car. God bless. Kill the damn dog already. So here's how I might write it. While running across the yard to avoid being hit by a stick that Dick was swinging, Spot was blinded by the morning sun reflecting off the dewy glass and ran into the road and was hit by the car. Cause and effect. One sentence, SFI, interpretive commentary. Compared to this mess, which is obvious the person is not clear. And each paragraph with a clincher sentence that ties it all together to the thesis. This will make you keep thinking about doing it. All right, focus on complexity of history. If you think things are black and white, you are wrong. They're all gray, baby. When you look at history, everything's all gray. Do you understand? Yes, economic policy was a greater factor in creating sectional tension than political compromise. Yet, when we look at the compromise of 1820 like a fire bell in the night, as Jefferson would say, you know what I'm saying here. You're seeing many different causes, you got me. I don't even want this. No dark blue. Black ink, period. No more. Nothing else. Do not attempt to make your essay relevant to today's world. This is wrong. Today, you're going to need to with the big ideas sometimes. So cross this out. This was a change made in 2016. All right, I've gone over this. Long essays are not always good, but short essays are never good. The question every reader asks themselves is how sophisticated a knowledge of history has this student demonstrated in the essay? So do you understand the grays? Remember the core structure, baby. All right, that's the video. Now, if you want, go ahead and text me and tell me you're ready for a Google Meet.